I'm going to give you an update on Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and I'm going to let you know that there's a way that El Salvador may be pressured to actually relinquish and release not only Kilmar, but some of the other 200 plus people that the United States government sent there to CCOT. I'm going to tell you about that. But first, let me focus your attention on this quote right here. In this quote, you're seeing Drew Ensign, who is the Department of Justice attorney representing the Trump administration and all of these 200 plus cases that I'm monitoring. Hi, if you're new here, my name is JJ Legal. So on this account, I help anyone who's interested know the insides of the various different lawsuits against the Trump administration to kind of demystify it, decode it, but also to give you hope that the court system is working. It's slowing him down. So welcome if you're not new here. But if you follow my account, you know that I've already shared that the Trump administration Department of Justice attorneys argue certain things in the courts, in the dockets, and I'm watching them. It's different from what they're saying, even in congressional hearings. You heard Kristi Noem saying that he's not coming back. You've heard Penny Bondi say he's not coming back. You've heard Marco Rubio say all these sort of things. So they're saying all these things in front of Fox News, but in the dockets, they're saying stuff like this. We're going to bring him back if he presents himself to the border, we'll bring him back. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. So hold on to that. So let's move forward. Let me give you a little bit of background if you're new here. So Kilmar came to the United States when he was 17. He was escaping gang violence. His mom sent him because there was so much gang. He saw family members being taken out. The gang members were trying to recruit him. She was scared for her son. Like the recent ancestors of Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, and Stephen Miller, who all were escaping something wherever they came from. Stephen Miller's family were escaping persecution as Jews. This is just a reminder. I want you to really point out the fact that Stephen Miller's grandfather left his native Belarus the same way Kilmar Abrego Garcia left his native El Salvador, escaping violence. There were anti-Jewish people attacking his grandfather when his grandfather had $8 in his name and came to Ellis Island without permission. No immigration. No one wanted him. He was undocumented, illegal. He had no authority to come. Eventually, using chain migration, after he settled, he sent for his family. That's what they're trying to get rid of. They're trying to get rid of chain migration. Mind you, Melania Trump filed for her parents via chain migration. So it's so funny. There's like they're imposing laws and implementing things that they benefited from. Like, if it wasn't for chain migration and a non-existent real immigration system back in 1903 that just let people come here. Now that you guys are here, you're trying to kick the bucket in the matter underneath you guys. Meanwhile, your whole presence here in the United States was unwarranted. And his ancestors spoke no English, so he's such a freaking hypocrite. Self-hater. Came here. No one invited them either. So just like their old ancestors came here, Kilmar came here as well, seeking opportunity, escaping. Eventually, at some point, he was pulled up and he claimed asylum, which he was not granted, saying that if he were to return, he was going to be subject to being persecuted. The judge eventually, 2019, agreed that he was not of harm, that he could stay here. They gave him a work permit. The minute they gave him a work permit and he was coming to courts, he now is in status. His status is pending. So he's not out of status. He's not undocumented. His documentation is he has a work permit. He might arrive undocumented the way all these people. If you're not native, or if you're not a Black American who was formerly enslaved, everyone's ancestors came here willingly without invitation. Most of them, or they came here to visit and they overstayed. Like the 600,000 Ukrainians, Russians, and Europeans that are living in America that came to visit and never left, who are all out of status. But you won't see Donald Trump hunting them down. Anyway, I digress. Back to Kilmar. So he came here in 2019. A judge said, do not send him back. Agreed. Despite the Trump administration saying he begons to MS-13, that was in 2019. The only evidence was someone saying that they saw him. He was part of a clique in New York. And Kilmar had shown that he'd only lived in Maryland his entire time here. And another investigator said so, but that investigator has been discredited. 2019, there's been 7 years, Donald Trump administration. The Trump administration last time chose not to appeal. Since then, they have no evidence that he belongs to MS-13. And that, I digress. So he is supposed to be here. Now, the judge that was initially handling the challenge to him and other folks being sent there told the Trump administration on March 14th, when Donald Trump issued that order, that they were tricky. They did that on purpose. On March 15th, the next day, Saturday, in the dead of the night, they swooped and got a bunch of people to send them off because they knew they weren't supposed to be using that law. And if you follow me, I say that the Trump administration often used laws from the bygone era, like the law that they're relying on, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, an 18th century law. The last time it was used was when time of war. 1812, World War I, World War II, and the intent of Congress, as 3 district court judges has recently decided. Instead, the intent of Congress was for when we were at war with another nation, or when another nation had those gangs, even if they're terrorizing different places, those gang members were not sent by Venezuela, and were not sent by Venezuela for the purposes of taking over any American jurisdictions. They just happened to come here for whatever reason. It's not what the law requires. So one judge kind of had said, I can see how that, but anyway, forget that judge. So the Supreme Court of the United States, all 9 justices, 9-0, said that facilitate that the Trump administration must bring Kilmar back. They also said that every single person who is in CCOT deserves due process. They were not given due process. There's so many evidences. There are a lot of cases in the case docket about getting those people back. The case has been brought back to Judge Boasberg, so we're working through that. But anyway, this is about Kilmar. So the Supreme Court told them to facilitate. Drew Ensign, as you show in the quote, said that he's going to facilitate. They said that they interpret facilitate means that they can do whatever they need to do domestically. He said that we are trying to bring him back. On the docket, he says that we think that all the Supreme Court meant is that we have to do what we need to do domestically to bring him back. But they're saying that we have no control. Now, here's why that's important, because here's the update now. Let me give you the update. So when we last spoke, I said they were undergoing discovery. For those of you new here, discovery essentially is where there's a lawsuit and both parties has an opportunity to interview the other side, request answers, interrogatories, request for documents. So that's what they're in the process of. It was delayed a couple of times, but where we are now is that they've actually had questions of the Trump administration officials. The Trump administration officials have evoked what's called state secrets privilege. They did this before when the case was before Judge Boasberg, before the United States Supreme Court took it from Judge Boasberg and said, you do not have the authority to have a blanket nationwide, pause of the Donald Trump's use of Alien Enemies Act to do what he's trying to do. It has to be on a case by case basis, right? So they had invoked that. At that time, Judge Boasberg, just the same way as Judge Zenas said, it's like, I am not asking you for any secrets. I'm just asking you, what is the contract? What are the terms? We already know, like I said, there's a leak that said the contract is a contract. Essentially, offer acceptance. We're paying them. Just like if you were to have a contract with someone to take out your trash and they accidentally take your dirt bike, you can call them and say, hey, by the way, I'm paying you, return your dirt bike. We already know that Donald Trump administration actually returned people. We know that Kristi Noem have gone back and forth. To say that they have no access in no way is a lie. When my senator, Chris Van Hollen, went down there and visited, Chris Van Hollen asked the CCOT, had they spoken with the Trump administration? So essentially they lied. They said no. They made no attempt. They said nothing about sending this guy back. Meanwhile, in the dockets, Judge Drew Ensign is arguing that we are doing what we can to bring him back. They've not communicated, but they're saying that. When they evoked state secrets privilege, Kilmar Abrego Garcia's attorneys said to the judge, let me present some evidence regarding this secret. They shared the tweet where Bukele said, hey, we're open for business. We're willing to negotiate. They shared the public meeting with the two that was on public. They're saying we're going to have this negotiation. We're going to have this agreement. We're going to work bilaterally together with the El Salvadoran government. All public. They shared on public when in Time magazine interviewed Donald Trump and he says, I can, if I want to, pick up the phone and just bring Kilmar back. All right. That's the president at the top of the top. They shared when he met with the press recently and said that, I don't know, it's the attorneys. If the attorneys tell me you can bring him back, I can bring him back. So now you have Donald Trump on 2 occasions saying that he has the ability to bring him back. It's up to the attorneys. The attorneys in the record are saying, yeah, we can bring him back. So where's the disconnect there? They actually argued that Donald Trump said stuff, but he doesn't know what he can say. He's the president. They're using him as some sort of political tool, political pawn. He's now a political martyr. He stands for more than just one person. He not only just stands for the other 200 people. Again, the contract says criminally convicted. They've already gone on record to say that majority of the people there are not criminal convict. I shared with you when I was doing these videos that the Donald Trump administration admitted that 172 people were not on the criminal detainer docket, meaning they had no crimes. 60 Minutes went further and did a research and investigated and said that 70% of people have no criminal convictions. The contract is for criminal convicts. Now, here's the thing that I told you about, I teased in the beginning. The International Criminal Court, El Salvador is a member. Donald Trump removed us, but El Salvador is a member. It's the UN. El Salvador receives about $32 million from the United Nations from various different countries. They are touted to get something like several hundred millions for some infrastructure products. Recently, this week, the head of UN has started inquiry. Now, if El Salvador does not give up those people, it's possible that the money they're getting, which is more than the whatever 14 million they're getting to hold these guys can be messed up. Like they're messing up their money by dealing with Donald Trump. And they've asked, I've heard, for Donald Trump and those guys to prove that the people there that they're holding have criminal convictions. They're not going to be able to prove that. So that is the out, essentially. So we'll see, because the right now the pleadings are going on, the discovery is continuing. There's still, the judges says that you guys are playing around. You say privilege, but there's no proof. As the Kilmar Abrego's lawyer says, that you can't just say privilege just because. Where's the proof this is privileged information? They're not presenting that because they're just lying. They're just making up some stuff. This is coming apart. This is falling apart at the seams. And sooner than later, hopefully, that it just crumbles and they give up. They're just holding on because it's like they've already called on saying he's not coming back, in which they've already put all that stuff where they say that on the docket. Every time they say he's not coming back. So you're not even telling people what they're doing. So they violate these people's due process rights. They aren't criminals. El Salvador government's going to need the Trump administration to prove that they're criminals in order to keep them there. Otherwise, they risk losing their money. So if that's not the case, El Salvador can send them all back. Drew Ensign said, if Kilmar comes back, we're gonna let him in. Even though Kristi Noem, who's, I'm going to save my thoughts on her, has said, well, if he comes, we're going to send him back out. We're going to send him right back. You can't, because now that everyone's watching him, you can't just send him back out. There's a process. He has an attorney. There's courts. People are watching him. There's no way in hell you bring him back that you're going to be able to just send him back. And I know some people say that with the Trump administration, don't release people. And just because the court says that, I am doing a court. I'm going to do a video. So stay tuned. In the future, I have backlog. Like I said recently, I have like a whole bunch of things I want to talk about, but I'm just backlogged. I'm going to do a video to show you that they actually do release people. Adrian Gil Rojas was released. There's a couple, I forget their name, from DC, they were released. Mohsen Madwi, he was released. Rosima Ostrog was released. So they actually do release people when the court tells them to do it. Kilmar, I think I can see them trying to put him in Haw and try to like resist. But at some point when all of this falls apart, and it's going to fall apart, he's coming back. It's going to fall apart at the seams. When it falls apart at the seams, finally, he's going to be released. It's going to be a joyous day. It's going to be a glorious day. And besides that, like I've said before, you follow this account. On the other side of this, my job here is to help you get calm. I went off the rails a little bit because they were crazy, driving me crazy. So I have a couple of videos and I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? I realized that's not. It's better to stay calm. My job is for you to stay calm and know that there's another side to this. That I pray to God, I don't know if you guys are persons of faith, I am, that we all live to see the day when Donald Trump is no longer president, when MAGAism like subsides and kind of like relinquish the hold it has on the Republican Party. And the Republican Party has its come to Jesus moments. And while they're going to sorting their things out about what happened the last 14 days when they relinquished all control to a megalomaniac and his cult, that we, the Democrats, are going to put in procedures and processes to avoid this happening again. And so there's another side to this. When there's a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, there's a Nuremberg type of trials where they're wrong. Anyway, so that's the update on Kilmar. I believe there's a hearing tomorrow at 1. So I'm going to go. I don't know if I should be announcing this, but if you cover, I don't know if I should be announcing this. I don't think anybody wants to hurt me. I don't know if I should say this. Don't come arrest me. But I'm going to take off the team. If you cover this and you see me out there, say hello and we can take a picture. But I'll let you know. What I think is going to happen is the Kilmar's attorneys have put enough stuff on the docket to show that they're lawless, they're crazy. I'm hoping that Judge Zenas just sees this and sees what Kristi Noem's saying. And I think needs to be held in contempt. And I really do believe she and Judge Boasberg need to work together with the joint prosecution and prosecute Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, and Department of State. And they whatever argument they can have, the Supreme Court gave them immunity, gave Donald Trump immunity, not them. So I don't know they'd be able to extend it to them, possibly, who knows. But they need to have a lesson showing that y'all can't keep doing this nonsense. And I'm hoping all those people come back because the Supreme Court says they're all entitled to due process. They didn't get due process. There was failure. And we're working through that. So anyway, so stay tuned to this account. Thank you for calling me out. I was trying to keep updated. It was just, as you see, it just got overwhelming. There were so many cases. At some point, I used to just, because, as they were coming slow and trickle down each day, I was like, new win, new case, la, la, la. Now it's kind of like, oh my God, it's so much. That's why I just do the wrap-ups on Saturday. On Sundays, I like to do a come to Jesus moment. I missed my come to Jesus moment recently, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it today. So I decided that I'm just going to just do all the videos and just get them off the docket, let them out, and then and just drip them all out because there's so much to do. So let me get out the backlog, and after to get the backlog out, and then I'll feel afresh. Then I can actually maybe start doing each case again. I can go back and just doing a case by case sort of thing when I catch up, and then I'll do a wrap up. I think I'm gonna do that, but let me just get my backlog out. All right, stay tuned. Tell your friends because yeah, show your friends. Bye. JJ Legal. Each one teach one.